In this lesson, you'll learn how to play right on time using 3 beautiful fingerpicking patterns. You can use any one of the patterns to play through the entire song. However, my favorite way to play this song is to alternate between patterns. So as we move through each section of the song, I'll show you how to apply our 3 patterns. And in our play along at the end of the tutorial, I'll alternate between patterns there as well. Now let's get started by looking at how to play the chords in this song. The first 4 chords are repeated throughout the verses, starting with our G chord. I'm playing G with my index and middle fingers on the 2nd fret of strings 3 and 1, and my ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. Then we go to our D chord, which is the 2nd fret of strings 2, 3, and 4. I'm playing this chord with my ring, middle, and index fingers. We go from D to A minor. A minor is the 2nd fret of the 4th string, and because we already have our index finger in place from our D chord, I just leave my index finger there to play A minor. Our next chord is C, which is the 3rd fret of the 1st string. You may find it easier to use your ring finger or your pinky as you're transitioning from A minor to C. Our next chord is E minor. Here I have my index finger on the 2nd fret of the 1st string, my middle finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and my ring finger on the 4th fret of the 3rd string. Next we have B minor. Now there are some instances within this song when we're playing only the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd strings on B minor. And if this is the case, you can cover the 2nd fret of strings 1, 2, and 3 with your ring, middle, and index fingers to play only the first 3 strings. However, if you're going to play all 4 strings, as we will in our second pattern, then you want to bar the 2nd fret across all 4 strings and use your ring finger to play the 4th fret of the 4th string. Next we have our D7 chord. In this song we move from D to D7. So starting on our D chord on the 2nd fret of strings 2, 3, and 4, we're going to place our pinky on the 3rd fret of the 1st string to play D7. Next we have our G7 chord. I'm playing G7 with my index finger on the 1st fret of the 2nd string and my middle and ring fingers on the 2nd fret of strings 3 and 1. Next we have our B7 chord. This fingering is similar to E minor. We're just moving all of our fingers up 1 string. So I have my index finger on the 2nd fret of the 2nd string, my middle finger on the 3rd fret of the 3rd string, and my ring finger on the 4th fret of the 4th string. And finally we have our C major 7 chord, which is the 2nd fret of the 1st string. Throughout this lesson, I'll be playing my tenor with low G tuning. If you have a high G on your instrument, you can follow this entire lesson. Just keep in mind that a couple of the fingerpicking patterns will sound a bit different on your instrument because your 4th string is 1 octave higher than mine. Also, when we get to the riff, we do have a few notes on the 4th string, so there will be an octave difference there as well. Next, I'm going to play and sing through verse 1, starting with a short introduction, so you can hear how it sounds. And then we'll look at each of our 3 patterns up close, and then how to apply them to this first verse. Come back now, even if you call me out. You might be angry now, of course you are. I'm scared too. Didn't mean to take it out on pattern played on a G chord. I'm starting by picking strings 1, 2, and 3 with my ring, middle, and index fingers. Then I'm picking string 4 with my thumb, and then going back to strings 1, 2, and 3. This pattern covers 4 beats, so the rhythm is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now here's our second pattern played slowly on a G chord. I'm starting by picking strings 1, 2, and 3 together. Then I'm picking string 4 with my thumb, string 3 with my index finger, string 2 with my middle finger, back to string 3, and finishing on string 4. This pattern also covers 4 beats, and the rhythm is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Bringing this pattern up to the tempo of this song will sound like this. Now we've come to our third and final pattern, and this is the easiest one. For this pattern, we'll pick strings 1, 2, and 3 together. And we'll hold this for either 2 beats or 4 beats, depending on which chord we're playing in the song and how long that chord is held. Now let's apply these patterns to our introduction through verse 1. In our introduction, we're going to play our G chord twice, and you'll see the number 1 in red next to each chord. That indicates pattern 1 for each of our G chords. Now moving into verse 1, we're going to alternate between patterns 1 and 2 for the first 3.5 lines. So starting in line 1, we'll play pattern 1 on our G chord, and then we'll move to our D chord playing pattern 2. Then to our A minor chord with pattern 1, and then to our C chord with pattern 2. Adding in the count to line 1 sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll play these same chords and patterns on lines 2, 3, and on line 4 through our A minor chord. So on line 4, we'll play pattern 1 on A minor, and then we'll go to our C chord, but this time we're going to play pattern 3 rather than pattern 2. We'll hold this C chord for 4 beats. If you're enjoying this lesson, please give this video a like, and if you're new to my channel, then welcome. I'm Lara. I'm a musician, a composer, and a ukulele teacher, and I hope you have fun exploring my song tutorials and arrangements. The next 2 sections of the song are the pre-chorus and the first chorus, so let's take a look at how to apply our 3 patterns to these 2 sections. After we walk through each section and how to play them, then I'll demo each section for you along with the lyrics. Our pre-chorus starts on E minor with pattern 1, then we go to B minor for pattern 3. So for this chord, we only have to cover strings 1, 2, and 3. We'll hold this chord for 4 beats. Then we go to our C chord for pattern 1, and then we go to our G chord for pattern 3. We'll hold this chord for 2 beats, and then our D chord, pattern 3, also for 2 beats. So here's the count to the first line of our pre-chorus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. of the pre-chorus, we'll play pattern 1 on E minor, and then pattern 1 on B minor, so here we do need to form the entire chord. Then we go to our D chord for pattern 1, and then we end this line on pattern 3 on our D7 chord for 4 beats. So counting out the second line of the pre-chorus, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now adding in the lyrics to the pre-chorus. Turn back time, help me to rewind, and we can find ourselves again. In the chorus, we're going to play pattern 1 on almost every chord. So starting in line 1, we're on our G chord, and we'll play pattern 1. And then in line 2, going to G7, we'll continue with pattern 1 through this entire line. Moving to C, then to B7, then to E minor. In line 3, we're moving to our G chord and we'll play pattern 3. We'll sustain this chord over the word right. And then once we're ready, we'll move into line 4 and resume our tempo on our D chord, playing pattern 1, then D7 playing pattern 1, and then to our G chord. Here we're going to play pattern 1 followed by pattern 3. This G chord is held for a total of 8 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now adding in the lyrics to the chorus. It's not too late, either way, I lose you in these silent days. It wasn't right, but it was right. First chorus comes the second verse. Now this verse is played differently than the first verse after the first 2 lines. So let's take a look at how to play this one. Lines 1 and 2 of the second verse are played the same way as the first 2 lines of verse 1. In line 3 of verse 2, we have a bit of a different progression. Here we're going to our G chord, playing pattern 1, then we go to D, staying with pattern 1, then to E minor, still on pattern 1, and then in line 4, we're playing pattern 1 on our C chord. In line 5, we're going back to our G chord, this time on pattern 2, and then to our D chord with pattern 1, then to E minor, pattern 1, and then we'll finish this verse playing pattern 3 on our C major 7 chord. We'll hold this chord for 4 beats. Now adding in the lyrics to our second verse. Don't look down, I can feel it when your heart starts pounding. It's beyond your control, you know it is. It's getting to the point where I can't carry on. Never held my breath for quite this, and I don't take it back. I did what I had to do. If you're feeling generous and you'd like to support my channel, then see the video description for an easy way to buy me a coffee. After the second verse, we have our chorus 2 more times with a riff in between. So we'll walk through how to play each chorus, Each one is just a bit different than the first chorus, and we'll walk through how to play the riff note by note. It's also an option to use any of our 3 patterns to play the chords at the top of the tablature, rather than playing the riff. Our second chorus is played the same way as our first chorus, until we get to the very last G chord at the end of line 4. In our first chorus, this G chord was held for 8 beats, but in the second chorus, this G chord is held for only 4 beats. So here we can play pattern 1, which accounts for our 4 beats. Now, if you're going to play the instrumental riff, the riff starts on the word time. So let me demonstrate for you playing from the final line of the second chorus through the riff into the first line of the final chorus, and then we'll come back and walk through how to play the riff. But it was right on time. It's not too late. We're starting the riff with a partial G chord. Here I have my index finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string and my ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. I'll pick strings 2 and 3 together, then the open 4th string, then back to strings 2 and 3, and then I'm placing my middle finger down on the 2nd fret of the 2nd string to pick strings 2 and 3 together again. In the second measure, we're playing all open strings, starting with strings 2 and 3 together, then strings 4, 3, and 2. Then in measure 3, we're going to our B minor chord. Here I'm going to play strings 1, 2, and 3 together. Then I'll pick strings 4, 3, and 2. And then in measure 4, we're going to pick strings 1, 2, and 3 and hold this for 4 beats. At the end of measure 4, we have repeat bars, so we're going to go back to measure 1 and play measures 1 through 4 one more time. Then we'll move on to measure 5. Now measures 5 and 6 are played the same way as measures 1 and 2. In measure 7, we're going to a B minor chord, and here, since we're only playing strings 1, 2, and 3, we don't have to cover the 4th string. So we'll pick strings 1, 2, and 3 together. Then we'll pick string 3, and then we'll move to our D chord to pick strings 1, 2, and 3 again, and this will be held for 4 beats. For the final chorus, lines 1, 2, and 3 are played the same way as the first 3 lines of our first and second chorus. When we get to line 4, we're playing the same chord progression as we played before, but we're playing pattern 3 on each chord. So starting with our D chord in line 4, we'll pick strings 1, 2, and 3. Then we'll do that again on D7. And then we're going to finish the song on our G chord on pattern 3. But it was right on time. Next, we're moving into our play along, where you'll find the chords, lyrics, patterns, and the riff on screen. If you'd like to download all of this as a PDF song sheet, you can do so from my Patreon page, along with my songbook covering all of the songs that I've shared in my tutorials. You'll find the link down below in the video description. 5, 6, 7, 8. Come back now, even if you call me out. You might be angry now, of course you are. again. It's not too late. Either way, I lose you in these silent days. It wasn't right, but it was right on time. Don't look down, I can feel it when your heart starts pounding. It's beyond your control, you know it is. It's getting to the point where I can't carry on. Never held my breath for quite this, and I don't take it back. I did what I had to do. It's not too late. Either way, I lose you in these silent days. It wasn't right, but it was right on time. It's not too late. Either way, I lose you in these silent days. It wasn't right, but it was right on time. I hope you've enjoyed learning how to apply these finger picking patterns to Right on Time. Have fun practicing this beautiful song, and thanks for watching.